Howdy, howdy, howdy. How we doing, Chad?
Good. How you doing, Poe?
Good. And thank you for joining us for another car talk with Chad and Poe. I'm John Poe, and
Clearwater Chad.
there we go. How are things in Clearwater today?
Oh, good. Nice and overcast today. How's
Good.
everything in Michigan?
Actually, we've been having real nice, cool nights, but man, it's still hitting up there real high in the daytime. That's for sure. So, here's something happened to you this week. Kind of threw a
Yeah,
ringer and everything.
yeah. I got into a pretty bad car accident, Poe. 3 airbags
Yeah.
went off and totaled my car. And thank God I'm okay. Just a little banged up, and
And that's your Nissan Leaf, wasn't it?
it was. Yep.
Yeah. So what are we doing now?
Now I'm getting my Prius fixed up. I had a Prius that I kind of forgot about in the driveway for about 2 years, Poe, and had a windshield put on it today. It's going to the shop tomorrow, get checked over, and I'll be driving that car from now on, probably.
And you're okay physically?
Yep. I mean, I got little bruises and stuff, but no broken bones or anything.
Yeah. Yeah. So how many did you mow down a bunch of people? What did you do? I don't. How did this happen?
Well, luckily, I mean, accidents are accidents, but it wasn't my fault. I was going
Right.
straight, and the other guy turned right into me.
Yeah. It's amazing. It's like we were talking about my daughter's car a few weeks back. She was on the highway, and of course, every highway that leads into and out of Detroit they're just a parking lot because they're all the construction that's going on. Thank you, Michigan Department of Transportation, for deciding that you should work on every single highway at the exact same time. But so she's behind a car. They come to almost a stop. Guy rear ends her, and the car was still drivable. She drove it around for the next couple of days, waiting to get it to a body shop. And they got it into the body shop. They absolutely totaled it out. And great thing for her is the insurance. All said and done, the car was totaled out, and she got a new vehicle to replace it. And I think she's owing like $100 altogether. So, but she couldn't understand why they totaled it out. And that's as creepy as you were asking. That's what brought this up tonight. Is thinking about what happened with Chad, and then with my daughter, and then having all the accidents I've been in, is just a matter of how vehicle safety has come about over the last few decades. I mean, it literally went from nothing at all to now we're at the point where there's just unbelievable amounts of safety gear that are on these cars. So I thought that'd be a good topic. And what do you think, Chad?
Oh, absolutely. Same. I think the same way. If it was a 1950s, 60s, or even 70s car, the results would be different. I probably wouldn't be here right now talking. At minimal, I would be in the hospital still.
Well, let me. I got a little video, and this one is pretty interesting. This one is a 2009 Chevy Malibu versus a 1959 Chevy Bel Air.
Oh wow!
One crash of a 2009 Chevrolet Malibu and 1959 Chevrolet Bel Air.
Now, I guarantee you that Bel Air weighs at least twice as much as that Malibu does.
Yeah.
Just the amount of sheet metal they put on them back then.
In slow motion, you can see the differences in how the new and classic cars perform.
Oh my God.
Now, I'm not seeing from the Malibu side of it, but on the Bel Air side, I mean, did you notice how that whole compartment right there, the driver's compartment, just collapsed onto the into the driver's seat? So let's see.
The traditional frontal offset test. The Institute conducted this test to commemorate its 50th anniversary.
What I find interesting is all the plastic on the front of that Malibu. And yeah.
It dramatically
look at that. You can actually see it crush that driver's compartment like that. Jesus. Looks like the frame just folded up right on.
Shows how much improvement has been made in passenger protection since the nonprofit organization opened its doors. The two cars collide in an explosion of metal, glass, and plastics. Where the Malibu crumple zone absorbs much of the crash forces ahead of the windshield.
I want to see where the person was driving, like the driver.
to compress the
Yeah, here
passenger
we go.
compartment.
Okay.
The impact is made worse for the Bel Air driver by the lack of airbags, head
Wow.
restraint, and even a seatbelt.
Jeez.
As a result,
No,
injuries
there's not
to the
even
neck,
headrest. Here
chest,
we go.
and both legs would be likely.
Look at
Wow.
that. You see that?
Yeah. Same. That's exactly what happened to me, Paul.
Oh, that's what. Oh, wow.
That's exactly that 50s car, the kind of car that it was a 2023 Nissan minivan. That mine was my
Wow.
Leaf, and I
Wow.
walked away, just
Wow.
scraped up.
2 Nissans. I think that's a son from God. So,
I know.
goodness.
Consequently, the Bel
But
Air received
I really want to talk about that point. We saw from the Bel Air side, from inside the vehicle, and how literally it all collapsed like that onto the driver. Even with the roof, the driver was punched up against the roof at one point there, and the whole dash came in on him. That's crazy. But you look at the Malibu here, and this driver's compartment, it seems like it's amazing how little the damage is to that. That's just crazy to me.
Yeah.
But that's I think a good explanation to that is we had someone that was very dear to us, and his name was Clem Roberts. We bought our home in the city where I worked as a police officer from him, and we lived there for 13 years. He was an engineer for Ford, and he was telling me about how it took 6 months to design how to fold the metal in the floor pan of the Ford. What was the Ford Aerostar, the minivan?
Yep.
So that they didn't have to have a frame, but they also had to incorporate crumple zones. And I think that the video we just saw was an excellent example of that, is how these vehicles are made so that the front end literally just collapses and keeps the driver's compartment from being impacted as much by the accident itself. And when we talk about auto safety and things like that, a lot of people think seat belts, the anti-lock brakes, the airbags, those kinds of things. I don't think they actually think about the fact that these cars nowadays are designed to actually let the front and rear of the car just crumple up so that the driver's compartment remains intact. And I think that's a really interesting point. That I think that video really shows how these things work out. Now I got another one here that's really interesting. Now this one's a few years old, but I think that it really highlights, how these are. And we're talking, this is probably a 10-year-old video altogether, but it's a 200 kilometer an hour impact of a Ford Focus versus a concrete block. And it's just crazy. When you see, there's the devastation. That's what it looked like.
Wow.
It turned that Focus into literally just a pile of metal.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's scary. That's a Ford Focus, and here it is. I'm going to get the actual speed here. I had it a second ago. 200 kilometers an hour is 124 miles an hour.
Wow.
That's huge devastation at 124 miles an hour of a Ford Focus.
Yeah.
And let me see if it gives us a year on it. And it doesn't tell us the year on the Focus. But this came out in 2016 is when this was released. So that should give you an idea about how, just in that amount of time, we're talking 7 years, how much things have changed. What year was your Leaf?
2018.
2018. You're talking a couple years. And one of the things I've found is, there used to be an old saying that if you want to know what the new hot thing that was going to be in automotive safety, handling, or comfort in the next 10 years, look at the current Mercedes-Benz. And it's been pretty much true. A lot of the things that they were incorporating into the Mercedes-Benz that they have now, you'll start seeing more and more 10 years from now in all the other cars that are out. And then I think, Mercedes, even though I don't really care for their vehicles, I've always thought they were the vehicles, just they're divas. They constantly need maintenance and repair, but they've been ahead of the curve when it comes to automotive safety and ingenuity for decades now. So it's pretty interesting. But two Nissans and one crash.
Yeah, it still replays in my head.
Yeah, that's weird. Yeah, you're gonna. I mean, I've been in quite a few crashes in my day. Being a police officer, that's where all my accidents were in police cars. And you'll actually see that, you'll keep replaying that accident in your head. What if, what did, main thing is to remember that what happened, and
Yep.
there's nothing you can do about it. And you just need to be able to go on and focus on other things. So
I guess the one thing about it, Poe, is I didn't see it coming.
Yeah, that's good.
I was like, what happened?
Yeah.
I didn't black out, but I just, so that was, but that's it.
And that's good, because people who see the things coming, they tense up. And when they tense up, all of their joints, the joints, the ligaments, those kinds of things, they take a lot of the impact and the brunt of it, and the G forces. And then it gets into the bone and everything else from that point. So yeah, I see it all the time. It's like you see someone who's an intoxicated driver plow into a brick wall, blow that wall out, completely fold that car up, but they get out of it without a scratch on them. And it's because they're so completely relaxed and don't realize what has happened to them. So yeah, I've seen it. I've literally seen, we had a chase where there were two females were at a party, and they ended up, everybody was drunk. They ended up stealing somebody's keys and taking off in their car. That person called the police. We got involved with it. It was somewhere, I think it was from Detroit, where they were partying at. But they led us on a high-speed chase, and then they ran into a literal concrete block, 20 foot by 20 foot, that was one of the foundations for a bridge. And the driver was so intoxicated that after the impact, she gets out of the car and starts to run, but doesn't realize that both the bones in her tibia on her right leg had been fractured. Literally gets out and goes to run and just collapses, and still didn't even know 5 minutes later what was going on. So
the other guy, Poe, I don't want to say the word on YouTube, but his hand was all, we'll just say, red, like right here.
Oh yeah.
Like he had to hold it with a cloth.
Wow.
Yeah.
So was it about to remove itself, or was it
no, it wasn't
road
that
rashed?
bad, but it was
road rashed up pretty good, huh?
Yeah. It was liquid,
That's some nasty stuff too. So, but I mean, the thing is, it's an accident, unless he jumped out acting like, "What'd you do?"
None of that. No, we didn't say nothing.
Yeah,
we
like
both
in my
didn't know what happened.
Yeah, in my daughter's case, she the person who hit her tried saying that she had pulled in front of him and stomped on the brakes, which caused the accident, because he was trying to get himself out of it. And what he didn't realize is the car in front of my daughter's car, when he hit my daughter, he pushed her into that car. Well, that person had looked, because they were worried about it, whether or not she was going to stop. And they said, yes, she had come to a complete stop. And the guy kept asking my daughter, do you have a dash cam in your car? And she's like, she was confused. She gets on the phone with me, and I said, tell him, yeah, I think my dad actually put them in there. And I'll have to ask him, because it uploads right to the cloud. And, this person was going to try to push it to try to say that my daughter was at fault in this, when it was their fault because they just weren't paying attention. Probably one of those on their cell phone.
Yeah.
And, willing to lie about it. So, another example of people nowadays not wanting to take responsibility for what they do. So, let's see. So what is your first memory of car safety features?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, I never really thought too much about it, but now I do because of the accident. But
for me, it was seatbelts. That was the first one, because we had cars that didn't have seatbelts in them, and then we had cars that did. and it was such an alien thing to us. We never used them. I mean, they literally sat there on the the side of the seat the whole time, and it was nowadays, my children were born after the laws that came in and said everybody has to be wearing a seatbelt in the car, and they've grown up with seatbelts but for a lot of us, for a long time, seatbelts were foreign, and we didn't want anything to do with them.
Wow.
But that's my first memory of a kind of vehicle safety thing. Let's see.
Huh.
I'm looking at a comment there. What about you? Can you
I
think
guess
of?
the only change, I mean, we're not too far off in age, but the only change is when the airbags came along. But there really
Yeah.
wasn't nothing you thought about, especially when you're just a driver.
I think the second one for me, more so than the airbags, was the anti-lock brakes.
Yeah.
And I can remember, in the department, we had the cars that were a few years old, and we had the cars that were brand new. Cars that were brand new had the anti-lock brakes on them, and the cars that were a few years old didn't. And you really felt the difference in that. Whereas with the, Michigan, like Buffalo's a big snow area. So in the wintertime, you have the car that doesn't have the anti-lock brakes, and you put your foot on the brake, and next thing you know, you're sliding straight through an intersection.
Yeah. No, I do. You're right. I never made that connection, but the anti-lock brakes work immediately almost.
Yeah, and
Right.
that was the thing, and just a matter of pulsing those brakes so that they're not allowing the tires to lock up and slide. I remember, the wife and I were driving one time, and she went into a slide, and the problem with it was, she didn't realize how to get out of it, and I'm like, okay, hon, take your foot off the gas, don't put your foot on the brake, and just turn right into the slide.
Yep.
And she was like, wow, that, she didn't realize it. I'm like, look, I'm driving 8 hours a day, pretty much 7 days a week right now with the police department. I'm used to how this works, and having, being the low man on the totem pole, I would have to, I would always get the oldest and the most beat up cars, which meant I got the ones that didn't have the anti-locks. And so you learn real quick how to power your way out of a slide with a car with the anti-locks on snow. So, I don't know about where I don't know about where you're at, but here people hear that there's going to be snow on the ground, and they start driving like idiots just from thinking there might be snow. How's it go where you're
same
at?
here. Plus, they rush out to the stores and.
Oh, not just that. It's everybody's driving with their four-way flashers on.
Oh, I
and they
hate
don't
that.
want to go over, 18 miles an hour on the freeway.
Oh, I hate that. Especially when you don't need it. I hate it. And
Yeah.
don't take two. They're taking 2 lanes with the flashers on when it's just fine out.
Yeah. Let's see. And State Alex is now a member for 5 months. Wow. Congratulations, sir.
Congratulations.
Yeah. There's new badges I put in there in the members section. If you take a look, there's I put some new ones in there for the different categories of time you've been a member. So take a look in there, Alex, to see if it's if you're eligible for one of the new badges. I'll see if I can find a ginger one for you. So
one more thing about the safety features.
Mhm.
This is obviously before both of our times, but
right.
I guess cars didn't even have like power steering and power brakes in the old days.
No, I've had cars that didn't have them. So yeah, I know.
You're talking about accidents. I mean, geez.
Oh my goodness. We'll give you an idea that old tractor I've got, that 1941 Ford 9N that I've got. That one, I'm just wondering, I think I had a picture of it up there, but let's see. But that thing doesn't have analog. It doesn't have power steering. The brakes are pretty much like the old Flintstone stuff, where you put a paddle presses against the brakes and against a tire or something on the drive shaft, and it's it's crazy. You're not. I think we got that tractor up to 35 miles an hour on the road one time, but it was you talk about sketchy. You don't want to be going that fast on one of those things. But yeah, I've had cars that didn't have power steering, didn't have power brakes, and you're holding the wheel and pressing on the brake as hard as you can, try to make that thing stop.
Yeah.
You know, I, I personally, I'm, I know that the analog, that the disc brakes are a lot more effective than the drum brakes, but you know, for how many decades did we have drum brakes were the only brakes on the vehicle?
Even for the front in the old days, right?
Yep. Yeah, they just had the big old coffee cans right on the hubs there
Mm.
for them, and you know, they're really interesting because when you don't when you put drum brakes on, you're not just putting a brake on like you do with a caliper and a disc set up on them. With drum brakes, you literally have to get in there and you have to turn a little star gear, and it pushes two arms in and out depending on the way you're turning it, and that's what applies the pressure to the drum, and you just have to figure out what's going to be the best one for you. You know, you literally had to adjust your brakes back then. Oh yeah, Jennifer, believe me, that Ford, that tractor I've got, if it's not moving, you can't turn those tires, and with a tractor almost all the weight is on the back of it, so I give you an idea. They're crazy. um let's see. Yeah, the analog brakes came in, and everybody thought they were so weird at first because you'd put your foot on the brake. I don't even think you even feel it anymore with the new cars, but with the older, when the first generations of the analogs, you put your foot on the brake and you'd feel that pulsing through the
Yep.
brake itself, and they were almost violent in the Chevys. Let's see. Jennifer, what is this? Jennifer, back in the 80s, I had a Ford Granada. Ooh. OMG, that thing was a boat to steer, and it was tough. Yeah. You know, people nowadays don't even understand what manual window controls are, you know, where you have to roll them up.
Yeah.
People don't realize that stuff. Let's see here. Oh, creepy. Let's see. Had a 69 Caprice Classic from my grandmother. Yeah. Think about my mom, who, if she's 5 foot, she's lucky, weighs about 110 pounds. And yeah, she's a scrapper, but she, think about her driving a 1970s Chevy Caprice Classic 4-door with no power steering.
Mm.
It was crazy watching her literally standing in the seat trying to move that wheel. Let's see. Have you ever experienced this? Manual windscreen wipers.
No.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh, wait a minute. This is back in the day. I'm talking about actual manual. I think he's talking
Wow.
about when you had to turn your wipers on and off. Back in the day, there used to be a knob on the dashboard you had to use manually if it rained. Now, I've actually been in some of the old Fords and old Chevys where they actually have a crank that you do like
Wow.
this, and the wipers move. So yeah, I've seen that. I mean, nowadays these kids, they don't even, you know, with these new cars, folks don't even remember the day you had to turn your wiper blades on and off. So
Wow.
it's you know, what was it? My BMW. It would, if it started raining, it automatic. It was, you know, like the Mercedes. It was one of the first cars that actually, you know, you didn't have a control for your windscreen wipers. It literally could tell by how heavy the rainfall on the windshield was
Jeez.
as to how much was needed, and it would automatically set the speed and everything of the windshield wipers on its own, and it was all done through the windshield.
It's got to be the expensive windshield.
I actually had one get busted, and it was a semi going down the road, one of those gravel trains, dumped a whole bunch of rocks that were on a fender or something like that, that they hit the right moment. They came off, they come flying back. It looked like somebody had shot the windshield of the BMW with a shotgun loaded with rock salt. And so I got it to the dealer. I had the extended warranty on it that paid for everything. I pulled it in. I told them what happened. They go, "Yep, no problem. Pull her in." They it took them about 3 hours to do it, and you know, I when I saw the bill on it, it was something like $2,000 to replace that windscreen.
Yeah, I
So
believe it. Yeah.
let's see here. You remember back in the day when we were so excited to get a relative? Oh yeah, an old beater. Nowadays, these kids want a brand new car. Are you kidding me? Well, I mean, think about that girl who was on Dr. Phil, who she was 17 or something like that, and she was angry because her mom bought her a Mercedes, but it wasn't a G-Wagon.
Wow.
And when Dr. Phil says, what makes you think that you deserve it? And she goes, look at me. And she was almost insulted over the fact that she had, that he would question why she thought she deserved a G-Wagon. And, I mean, I got lucky. Like I said, my first car was a 69 Dodge Charger. And that's a pretty rare find. And I literally lucked into it. My second car was a 78 Oldsmobile Cutlass Calais with I think it was a 280 or a 230 V8. And I was happy to have that car. I thought that was something else. And I had the Bronco that I pulled out out of a field that was buried to its frame. But that was my, showing off truck, because you didn't pass a gas station with that thing. Creepy, the Beamer I had was a 2016 BMW X3. So I loved it. Fast. It ran like a scalded dog, man. That thing. You had the ability to change it from regular mode to luxury mode to sports car mode. And when you push the button for sports car mode, you manually shifted the transmission on it, and the suspension, you could literally feel it lower on the car to hug the ground better. And man, that thing was fast, but it was all-wheel drive. I never got stuck one time in that BMW. Problem with it is once you're out of the extended warranty on it, it's so expensive to do any of the work to it that the car just becomes impractical. But my son wanted it, so I ended up giving it to him. He never changed the oil in it. Ended up blowing the motor in that BMW. So it's crazy. I've been looking at the newer ones, and just the pricing on them, it's just not worth it to jump back into such a high price vehicle. I had that one, I think, for I can't remember how many years I had it before I gave it over to him. And when he took it from me, it had like 100,000 miles on it. It didn't have a whole lot, but he, never changed the oil. And you don't do that. That's what happens to the cars. And I want to say hello to the boss mama Goldie that's in here. Everybody show some love to Goldie. So hardest working person in SPTV, I can tell you that.
It's true.
Everybody says, the creators and all that. Nah, Goldie's the hard worker. Let's see, Daniel, it ain't easy to dodge a Dodge. I'm just surprised at how many of those Dodge Chargers are out there. It seems like every time you turn around, you're looking at a Charger.
Yeah.
And I got, there's some of them I look at and I'm just like, wow, that is gorgeous. And then, others I look at and I'm like, it's a Charger. So, let's see. And folks, if you didn't know, Anhata has her own channel, Anhata on Fire. I got hand-me-down cars for years. Got our first nice car in 2000, Chrysler Cirrus. Loved that car. Yeah, neither my wife nor I had ever had a new car. Every car we bought was used. And then after I got with the police department, I'd been there a few years. We bought a house. We got fortunate. We bought a house on a land contract for, I think it was $6,000. And that was our first home that we owned. We ended up dumping something like 35 grand into it. But, over the years, first, she found out she was pregnant, then we had the twins on top of all of it. But before the kids came along, we were able to go out and buy our first new vehicles. And she got I can't remember what she got. I think she ended up with a Ford Fiesta or a Festiva or whatever it was. Absolutely loved that car. Escort. She went with the Escort on that one. I ended up getting the Chevy S10. No, I bought a Dodge Ram. It was the first year the Dodge Rams had come out with a new body style, the first or second year. I bought one of those 4-wheel drive, the extended cab, everything. Then we had the kids, and the kids didn't fit in the truck and the baby seats. So I ended up trading that in, and I had gotten I got a full-size Dodge Ram conversion van. And you talk about that, boy, that was riding in style with that thing. And we got the low top. We didn't get the high top conversion. We just, for us, there really wasn't any need for it. But man, we loved that van. We had that thing for probably, I'd say 8 years. It had a good 30 trips from Detroit to Florida on it. So, and we loved it.
Nice.
What about with you? When did you get your first new car?
I bought the Prius brand new.
Did you really?
Yep, that's one of the reasons why I wanted to keep it. And
Now, were they expensive?
this one was because it's the plug-in model.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And this was the one car too, since I usually had used cars, but when it was brand new with no miles, I had it professionally undercoated. Plus, I undercoated all of the exhaust with the 1500 Fahrenheit
Wow.
stuff, so it's in good shape underneath.
The ceramic paint. No.
Yep.
Yeah. That's good stuff. We it's quite a feeling when you buy your first car yourself, isn't it? You buy your first new car.
You get to pick out everything you want, what color.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, it's always been for me, it's a matter of we went to buy our first vehicles, and it was unreal to us. We had all these options. The used car, you get what you got, or as my wife says, you get what you get, don't throw a fit. Mm-hmm. And that was for us, that was a big thing, was getting into pick what we wanted. I was willing to wait for the time to have the vehicle put together. It was brand new, had like half a mile on it when I got it. And I remember going to the hospital when she had the twins, and it barely fit into the parking garage at the hospital. And this was stock. It wasn't, I hadn't put any lift on it and everything. Gary, it's 8:30 here in Michigan. What about with you, Chadwick?
Yeah, 8:30 here in Clearwater, Buffalo.
That's Clearwater Heights, Buffalo.
That's right.
There you go.
Well, we do Clearwater time. It's easier. Everyone should have to go around Chad's time.
It's the same thing. So, we're all Eastern time zone with that. So, but back to these cars. What I said, a lot of people didn't realize. Let's see. Oh, okay. I was looking at something. And welcome, Duncan. Hey, Duncan. Let's see. This your first car was a 2005 Mazda 3, pretty dark blue. Love that car. There's if I remember those are little hot hatchbacks, aren't they?
Yeah,
they call them hot hatchbacks. They're the ones that all the kids soup up and everything.
Yeah, I believe so.
Put those huge, nasty sounding mufflers on them and everything. Yeah, his had about 6 miles on it. Let's see. Electric Boogaloo never had a brand new car. Had some cool secondhand ones where the owners had chosen super cool but random options. So funny to see what others wanted. Yeah, and you also have to remember, in some cases, you're getting cars that they just bought them off the lot, and they came with what the dealer had put into them, and that's that's a sad thing of it, is you think, oh my goodness, why did this person have that? And it was actually, it wasn't a matter of they wanted it. It was a matter of that's what was on the car. They needed a car, and there it was. So,
and I mentioned this in another live. I worked at a couple dealers, and they purposely loaded them up aftermarket wise to inflate the price.
Yeah,
that was my job, was to key in what the one guy ordered for all the new trucks. It was like the bed rails, the blah blah, the vent visors, and you think all this stuff is coming from the dealer? No, they would get it from a parts store, and it just you know what I mean.
And you're thinking, wow, this all came from either, like you said, the dealer, or it came from the factory like that. And here it is, everything came from O'Reilly's or Pep Boys or something like that, and you're just like, what? So it's
and then crazy. I had the reverse. I worked for the automotive aftermarket, like the Pep Boys and the Advance, and the thing was, the parts guys had to go in the back door because they didn't want no one knowing that they got parts from the aftermarket.
Wow, that's crazy. It just all those little things that you you think you don't think about that are happening behind the scenes. It's I remember with my Dodge, when I bought it, I wanted to get a trailer hitch on it. And I'd asked them when I bought it, and they're like, you know what, the guy at the dealership I knew through the police department, and he said, dude, just go over to this place. They're the same place that do them all for us, and just go over there, and they'll give them my name, and they'll give you the same hookup we do. And yeah, and that's the place I actually have gone to ever since I bought that truck. If I get a trailer hitch put on a vehicle, it goes there. So it's really interesting. You know, a lot of these things you think are going to be under warranty and all that, and they may have voided your warranty by doing that to it.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, here we go. In Australia, 20 years ago, air conditioning was standard in new cars, but all fitted locally for a lot of big brands. Must have been cheaper than ordering it like that. And it could be that would all go into shipping, trying to ship it over. Like if you're a Ford or something like that, if it's not made in country, it's easier just to send the car there and have it prepped up with different parts there that are made right there in Australia. So yeah, there's a YouTube channel called Cutting Edge Engineering. And this guy rebuilds a lot of big mining and industrial equipment parts. And he talks about the fact that it's actually cheaper to have him build a new part to replace something on one of these pieces of equipment than to order it from the US or the UK and pay for the shipping on top of it. I think he was talking about a shaft on a big hydraulic boom one time. You know how you have the hydraulic ram, it has the center cylinder, then you have the shaft with the puck on it, and the fluid pushes the shaft in and out of the hydraulic ram. And the shaft on it was bent. So he went and machined out a whole new shaft for it and replaced it in that hydraulic ram. It was going to be $7,000 for him to build that new piece. But if they ordered it, it was $15,000 and then an additional $2,000 to $3,000 to have it shipped from the United States to there.
Wow.
So yeah, I can understand doing that. It's just why I can understand why it would be that way when you get the car there. So, oh, here you go, Chad. You know, remember this one?
Yeah, I do remember those. Yep.
It's from Creepy, and it says, "Hey, Poe, remember the old radios that had push buttons for channels like jukeboxes and cars? I forget how you set those things.
I forget too.
Yeah, I know. Like I remember when they went to the digital radios, and a lot of them you'd sit there and you'd hold the button in for a certain amount of time, then you'd hear a weird beep, and that set the channel to that button. But I forget how it was with those old radios like that.
I forgot about that. You know,
I tell you how old I am. I actually had an 8-track player at one point.
Wow.
You know, I remember as a kid having they looked like it was a ball, and they come in all these different colors as a plastic ball, and on the front of it had the face of it was cut at like a diagonal, and it had the speaker, and then it had the slot where you put the 8-track in and the fast forward features. Duncan, let's see. You pull the buttons out and then push it in once tuned in. Okay. Wow. Yeah, man, that's been so long.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Anhata, it's the same thing. But Creepy push and hold the button. So it could have been any of those. I'll give you an idea, folks. Before there were VHS or Betamax or any of that stuff, you couldn't record with it, but they had something that was called a laser disc system. And it was this box, and it was, I'd say, 24 inches by 30 inches by 8 or 9 inches tall. And literally, you had these gold discs that you put in there, and they had been inscribed, and a laser would read the content on it, and it would play it on, you hooked it up, and it would play it on your television. It was just incredible, the quality and all that. And I remember our dad had got that, and we got the what do you call it? He got the first movie he got for us was Star Wars, A New Hope. And you know, for me, that was crazy insane, because my uncle had taken me to see that at the movie theaters when it came out. And now, you know, back then you had to wait 2 or 3 years after a movie had been out, then suddenly it'd start playing on television. And I remember we had that. We had Smokey and the Bandit.
Oh, I love that movie.
We had a Godzilla movie. We only had like 5, because it was like $200 or $300 per movie to be able to get this stuff. And then the advent of HBO came in, And that literally just, man, that killed that whole market, because why are you spending, $200-300 on a single movie when you could pay HBO like $5 a month and get all these movies that had just been in a theater? So, what kind of old tech do you remember?
Well, not that old, but I remember my dad bringing home our first VCR, and he brought home 2 Michael J. Fox. We rented them. The
Wow.
Secret to My Success, and what was Back to the Future.
Well, let's face it, Michael J. Fox was the beast of the time.
In the 80s,
so,
yeah.
Yeah. Yep. I remember we got what was it? Cable at our house, and we were one of the first people to get it, and it was such an amazing thing. And literally, it was a box that sat on top of there, and it had buttons that you pushed for each channel. And I remember the repairman the guy who installed it came in and said, "Hey, give me an extra $20. I'm going to give you a thing that's going to give you HBO for free." And my dad's like, yeah, we'll do that. And it was this big gold thing that screwed into the back of it, coaxial style. And then you screwed the line into that. And we had HBO for free. And my dad figured out how to fix it so that he could run a cable into the basement, so I could watch TV on the basement, cable on the basement TV down there. And man, we were just, living high on the hog. And it took him a few months before he could get hold of the guy to get another one of those adapters so he could put it on the basement TV. And then all of a sudden he's like, wait a minute. They're showing some pretty dicey movies at night. I don't think I want my teenage son watching that stuff. And here we go. Nasty Nathaniel's in the house.
Hey,
legendary A1 auditor.
Yeah,
Nasty Nathaniel. Let's see. Duncan, I had a friend in college with an old Dodge with a built-in that was awesome.
Wow.
Built-in coffee maker. Was a great ski car. Oh, I bet. Man, a coffee maker. Oh, wow.
That's great.
I had a friend who he worked in a big college town down in Ohio. He was a bouncer at one of the big nightclubs down there for all the college kids. He was friends with the kid whose grandfather invented coaxial cable. And we're just like, wow. And the kid's like, oh yeah, we're like billionaires. And we're like, well, what are you doing here in college? And he's like, oh, my grandfather said if I want any of the inheritance, I've got to at least get a 4-year degree. I was like,
wow.
Must be nice, huh?
Yeah. Let's go to college for the hell of it.
Let's see. Maggot. Actually, I was talking to my kids because I had the same exact thought. And Maggot says it's a bummer that physical media is slowly ceasing to exist nowadays. Here's something crazy that my daughter was telling me about, is that there are a lot of people now who are going back to VHS, and they have the streaming services and the movies, and they're just recording the movies off of the VHS, off of the live streaming in the streaming into the VHS tape. And I'm like, why would they use such old technology for that? And they said because the DVDs and the Blu-rays and all that have some kind of coding in them, and you can't do the recording. But with the VHS, apparently it goes around it. But apparently it's starting to come back because people are getting tired of, you pay for a movie and you think you bought it, and the next thing you know, the subscription service that you're part of says, oh well, we're increasing our monthly fees. And you're like, well, I'm just going to go to the free membership. Well, you don't, suddenly they've taken all this stuff that you purchased away from you. And so a lot of people are just like, nope, I'm going, what? Someone figured out the recording it on VHS. You'll have it there for 10, 15 years at least. We still got VHS tapes in closets around here, but we don't have anything to play them on. So let's see. Joel McQueen. In 1955, you could get a Dodge with a turntable called a Highway Hi-Fi. I remember hearing about that. My dad was a Dodge dealer. They were not popular, but kind of cool. I think they're awesomely cool. It's, being here and outside of metropolitan Detroit, Michigan, we see a lot of crazy stuff going down the road. You'll see these cars that look like someone went through and just did a bad graffiti job on them. and would wrap them, or they wrap them in these kind of geometric shapes, black and white. And what that does is it makes it hard for you to distinguish body lines and things like that. They're out doing the road testing on these. Well, and this will be for you too, Chad. Do you remember the Betamax that was the rival to VHS in the 80s?
Yeah, my friend back when I was a kid had one in his basement.
I remember them too. They were smaller, and if I remember, they actually had better definition in the quality.
Yep.
I think it was one of those things where one of the major movie companies said we're going to VHS exclusively, and they're too bad if you want something else. But yeah, I remember the Betamax. I remember we used to be able to go to Blockbuster and choose. Go ahead.
Wow.
What was it?
I also, that's correct. Also, because I just watched a YouTube video on this. They also had the lower, maybe a couple weeks ago. They also, I don't know why, but they also had the. They didn't have enough tape. Like they didn't have back then. They didn't have the 2 hour. Eventually, they did. At the end, it was too late.
Right.
But they didn't have like the standard 2 hours to get like a good copy of a movie.
Oh, okay. So you'd have to have like two.
Of it. Yeah.
Yeah. You'd have to have 2 tapes just to watch a whole movie.
Yep.
Lord, think about how big your collection would be for Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit. My goodness. Let's see. Wow. Let's see. Duncan, they're trying to make us dependent on subscription services, so we have to pay for things over and over and over again. Yeah, that's one of the crazy things about it. We were talking about in a few car talks back where BMW and Mercedes are already out there testing subscription services for their vehicles. Mercedes with the electric vehicles, if you pay a subscription fee, it unlocks like 10 horsepower. And BMW, if you want to use your heated seats, you have to pay for a subscription price on that. And my understanding is they were testing them, but I mean, it's just a symbol of where things are going.
Yeah.
I know that vinyl's been back real heavy. What's his name? Jack Black with the white stripes. Jack White I don't know what his name is. He has an actual company in Detroit where they press actual vinyl records. And like my son is a huge fan of vinyl. So he's got a couple of record players, got a big selection of vinyl. And so I knew that was coming back. I didn't know that the 8-tracks were coming back. So did you ever use 8-track there, Chad?
I've heard of them back in the day, but I've never had one.
They were just these big cassettes. I mean, they were like that big, and you just slid them in and it started playing. It was like, it was a cassette tape inside of the 8-track box. Wow. But I think that was the thing, is it only had 8 tracks were available on that particular, on the cassettes. Let's see. Suzuki has an old DVD VCR combo. You didn't throw out. VCR still works, but yeah, it's amazing. On a lot of them, it's the DVD portion that went out first over the VHS. Yeah. I mean, we literally had a closet full from floor to ceiling of VHS tapes for all the movies we bought for the kids.
They're still available at secondhand stores of VCRs.
Yeah, there are companies that are actually remanufacturing them now. So
good.
It's good. I remember we had that Dodge conversion van. I built a stand and we had a TV that had a VCR in it. And I bought one of those 12 volt to 110 converters so that we could be going down the road, and I literally put that in and strap it to one of the seats in the van, and we could just put movies in and watch, and the kids could watch movies on our trips. We were going to Florida all the time, so and people were stopping us at gas stations. How did you get a TV in your van? And here it is another year or so, and they're actually putting TVs in the headrests in front of the kids.
That's cool.
Let's see. Joel, vinyl was my choice from the 1960s on. I have a lot of them still using my turntable from the 1980s. I just always felt that it always seemed like vinyl had soul to the sound. You know, everybody was like, all the new digital and all that, that's the way you go. It's the cleanest sound. I always felt like there was a soul to the music that came off vinyl. What about you?
Yeah, no, I don't like everything perfect either. I like that. Just like I like to hear an artist, even if it's on YouTube, but I'm listening. I like to hear the live version versus the cleaned up.
Yeah. You know, I've the wife and I always talk about this a lot. You know, because we go to a lot of concerts, and we were talking about, you know, worst concerts we've ever been to, and she said, "Well, my worst concert was Journey," and I'm like, "Journey? How was Journey the worst concert you'd ever been to?" And she said it was just like listening to them on the records, and I was like, "Oh, now I get it," you know, because you're taking this. You're taking this sound and you're not doing anything to it. The live version literally sounds exactly the same to the recorded version. And there's, you know, I'm like you. I want to hear the differences. I want to hear the screw ups in it. Oh, I hit the wrong chord at this section, or I did this, or I did that. You know, those kinds of things. To me, that's the difference between, say, a CD or a digital recording and a vinyl recording, is there's soul to it, and that's how it feels to me. So that's a great point there. That's the way I've always looked at it. I like you know, I hate these songs with the auto tune and all that garbage in them. You know, I want to hear someone sing clean. I like, you know, like Luke Combs or Jelly Roll, a great example there. You know, here's a guy that says, I'm not a singer, I'm a rapper, and I don't know why people like to hear me sing because I think I suck. Mm-hmm. But yeah. Oh, here we go. Vincent Giggles. She had a disc cam. Remember that? A Discman.
Yeah, definitely. Yep.
I had the Walkman. I never had the Discman. Oh, you know what I did years later when you could get them for like $1 at a flea market or something. But yeah, I remember that. That was some, you know, those were great times. Let's see. Nasty Nathaniel. I agree. I prefer real musicians, not fake musicians. Yeah. That's why I got so angry during the era of the glam bands and the hair metal of the 80s and 90s with Poison and bands like that, because these were groups that they literally put together over how they looked as compared to how good a band they were. You know, it's like these boy bands that they were putting out there in the 2000s, and it was literally a matter of who are the prettiest boys that we can put out there that will get the girls you know, all hot and bothered for them, and they got to be able to dance. You know, we got to have one who's like the guy who's like the dirty guy who wears the black leather jacket and stuff like that. We got to have the one who's the nerd. You know, they put these bands together for the wrong reasons. And I think, you know, again, I agree with that. I think it's the same. There's no soul to it. It's just, you know, a bunch of people got thrown together to make a bunch of money and most of the time for the record label. So,
yeah.
You watch, have you seen that movie Super 8?
No.
What? It's the Goonies for the 2000s.
Oh, I'll try to watch it.
Did you like the Goonies?
I never watched. The only thing I watched in the 80s was like Back to the Future, Knight Rider, all car stuff, you know. I know.
Oh man, no. Goonies was this incredible. It had Corey Haim, Corey Feldman. Had a bunch of people who became bigger, as you know, in the next few years as they matured. And the thing, it was just a great movie. It was a fantastic family movie. I can't tell you how many versions of it we've got. It's my wife's absolute favorite movie. And then in the 2000s, there was a movie that came out called Super 8. And it was like the Goonies for that era. And that was, you know, we love that one too. Let's see. Nasty Nathaniel. I saw Goonies in the movie theater when it first came out. I saw it at a drive-in, dude. Here's a crazy one. My mom went into labor with my brother, and she ended up having to be in the hospital for like a week. So it was me and dad. My sister was staying with an aunt, and they, my dad, he had no idea. I mean, he'd done so little in actually raising us. Our mom did most of it. Jennifer says to throw you out if you don't know anything about the Goonies.
Well, Poe, you know for sure. Poe catches me watching Knight Rider before the streams when we.
Yeah. But dad, one night, dad's like, let's go to the movies. And I was like, okay. So we went to the movies, the drive-in movies, and we saw one of the Godzilla movies right before Smokey and the Bandit. And I mean, this is one of those things that I will never forget. First off, every kid Saturday morning watching Godzilla, to actually go see a Godzilla movie in the theater, in a drive-in. And then on top of it, got to see Smokey and the Bandit, which, I hadn't been allowed to see because it had like a PG rating or an R rating or something. And oh my goodness, that was cloud nine for me. My favorite memory with my dad. Wow. Let's see. We actually have, Joel, we have an old, the 8mm projector with sound, and we have a couple of the old Godzilla movies on the 8mm. I think it's on the 8mm. I have to look it up. Joel says, I worked an auction last week and picked up my box of junk for a truck. There was an old 50s transistor radio. Oh man.
Wow.
It's about as big as a 4x6 and weighs about 3 pounds. It still works, and it will probably work long after you're gone, Joel. That was one of my dad's things. Was he collected vintage radios, whether they be the kind you put up on the sill above the fireplace or something like that, and every one of them worked, and they were all from like the 20s, 30s. I don't know if 20, but 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. If they were vintage, he got them. And that was neat stuff. What let's see. I'm trying to think about that. With you, what were your first steps into the technology world with things?
With radios?
Radios, TV, any of that?
TVs were pretty standard when I was a kid in the early, 80s. The 25-inch TVs with no remotes.
Or they had the clicker.
Oh, eventually. Yeah. Yep.
Or they had the one that had the cable that went to the television.
Yep.
And you had to click it.
My friend had one of those. But yeah, we started out with no remote, 2, 4, and 7, and then, like you said about cable, the cable guy was going down the street. He said there's something new called cable TV, and like you said, it was only $8 a month. So we got it.
I remember my mom was like, "We're going to pay for television we can get for free," and my dad's like, "No, we're paying for better television than you can get for free." And before you knew it, you couldn't hardly get any of the television channels if you didn't have cable. So I mean, and somebody was talking about it. The movies they were showing after midnight. You had they called them the Skinamax movies. Because Cinemax was showing like that soft core stuff at night. That's just a teenage boy's dream there. Let's see. A few people are saying that they love Smokey and the Bandit. Come on, Daniel. They're two iconic people. I mean, I consider them both in completely different classes. Sean Connery and Burt Reynolds. I mean, come on, Sean Connery. That's the man.
I love my favorite in there was the sheriff, Jackie Gleason.
Yeah, Buford T. Pusser.
Yep.
I'm gonna barbecue your. That's just like I've got probably 2 or 3 copies of that on DVD and Blu-ray now. And I mean, it was just classic. That was amazing stuff. And it had to be your liking, Vince. Sean had the sexy accent, but a lot of them liked Burt when he threw in that Southern accent. So I mean, they're just icons, just amazing. A lot of people don't, you had Burt Reynolds and Jerry Reed were in Smokey and the Bandit. Most people don't even remember Jerry from the movie.
To this day, that 77 Trans Am is Burt Reynolds' favorite car.
The other day I couldn't get a picture of it for you. I'm driving down, we're doing the route, and I'm coming up one of the back roads because there was a train blocking another road, and I ended up behind one of those, but it was gold.
Wow.
But it was that model Trans Am, and I'm just like, oh man, I couldn't figure out a way to get past it and get a picture of it.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I knew you'd be pretty hyped up, seeing
Absolutely.
something like that. So yeah, those were great old cars. They actually banned a replica of that from Detroit Autorama back in, I think it was 2019 or 2020, because it had the Georgia State flag as the plate for it. And back then that flag had the Confederate flag was part of the Georgia flag. And that was back during the whole cancel thing, where if it had anything to do with that, then automatically it was thrown out, but that was, they actually banned a car from the, they actually did every year the Smokey. There's some group that does like a Smokey and the Bandit reenactment thing. So every year, like, I don't know if you ever heard of it, but they have something called Duke's Fest every year.
Oh, okay.
And that's the guy who played Cooter in the Dukes of Hazzard.
Crazy Cooter.
Yeah. Well, he has what do you call it? He has a place in Gatlinburg, and he has a place in Pigeon Forge that are Cooter's Garage. Let's see, Hazard Fest is what it's called. I'm trying to pull it up right now. So they have something like this that they show every year. And this every year they have this. It's called the Hazard Fest, and it's in Newport, Tennessee. And the guy who runs it is, like I said, Cooter from the show.
Yeah.
One of the big things that they do every year is they have a big jump off, where they do this big, huge jump with an old Dodge Charger. Ooh, look who's going to be there. We got Tom Wopat, Rick Hurst. I don't know this Byron Cherry. Do you know him?
No.
Jeff Altman, Hee Haw Honey's Reunion, Lulu, Dunella, Misty Rowe. Yeah,
that's cool.
Wow. Special guest. They have Barbara Eat. Oh, they're going to have Barbara Eden there.
And Jerry Mathers.
Yeah. And Bert Gillian. This guy was in Blazing Saddles, Paper Moon. He always played the goofy bad guy.
Oh, okay.
Let's see who we got here. I don't know. From Happy Days. Oh, what was his?
Donnie
Out the Mouth.
Yeah.
Yeah. Danny Moe.
Yeah.
Oh, Charlene Tilton. Dallas. Yeah, I remember her. They're gonna have Uncle Si from Duck Dynasty. Okay. This was one of the guys who helped out in the shop, and that was the guy when everybody else had the big beards. He only had a goatee. Let's see, Lizard Lick Towing. Boy, that seems about right for that. Leland Chapman from Dog the Bounty Hunter. Do you know what Trailer Park Mafia is?
No.
I've never heard of it. Oh, she's from Moonshiners, Home Improvement. JJ Cohen from Back to the Future.
I thought that was Aaron for a second.
Yeah, I don't know who that is. Yeah. And Jimmy Valiant from WWE Hall of Fame.
Wow.
Oh my goodness. That's crazy. Featured guests.
That's amazing.
Barbara Eden selling genie bottles. Let's see. Yeah, I don't know who a lot of these people are. Wow. I don't even know what that is. I don't know. I'm just looking to see if they're going to have the jump off like they do every year.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Let me see. I'll find one. Yeah, I mean it's crazy because they do a Duke style jump off with one of the cars, and
I can't believe they banned that one car though.
Yeah, they did. They banned the General Lee that year.
Must have been some scumbum.
Yeah. Well, my thing is there. What are you going to do? You can't stop it. So, all right, there we go. Can you see the car?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I didn't know if it had switched the screens out or not, but this is one of the jumps. That doesn't sound like Duke's music to me.
No, don't see copyrights on that.
Oh yeah, let me turn it off. Yeah, here she goes. This is one of the big jumps from one of those. You gotta be crazy.
Wow.
Look at that.
Yep.
Look what
Car
they did to that Charger.
I know there's not many left. You shouldn't be. Yeah.
My goodness. But nowadays you can literally put a car together with just parts you can buy off the internet nowadays.
Yep.
Wow,
Yeah,
look at that front end fold, buddy.
Oof.
Yeah, probably one of the craziest things is when I was a kid, through a friend of my dad, we were able to get he was one of the people who did the air show stuff for Kings Island. They did air show performances every Saturday and Sunday. And so he was like, hey, do you want to see Evel Knievel jump at Kings Island? And I was like, yeah. So I was very fortunate. I got to actually see Evel Knievel do the jump at Kings Island. It was crazy.
Wow.
Don't remember it. I remember the crowd. I remember everything. I remember hearing the motorcycle, but I don't remember the jump itself. So, but I just know that I was like a god at school. Everybody's like, you got to go see it, because I had the T-shirt and all that, and it was pretty crazy. Susie Q. I saw one of those General Lee cars on the road next to me once. It was surreal. When you see those cars like that, there's a guy, and I'll have to pull up pictures for the next car talk. And I was driving down the road and I looked to my left and there was one of the original style Batmobiles driving down the road next to me. And, after almost running into it because I about lost my mind, I slowed down, got behind him, followed him to where he was going. And he was out. He was actually the mechanic and carekeeper for a guy who has a big collection just outside of Detroit. He has the A-Team van. Wow. He has a General Lee, I guess it was one of the ones that was crashed and purchased and completely rebuilt and put back together. He had cars from all these different big movies. He had a Knight Rider, the big movie cars. He had pretty much every one of them. And it was just, I've gotten to know the guy who takes care of all of them, a really nice guy. It's insane. I mean, you're talking millions of dollars in cars that rarely ever leave this guy's he's got a warehouse that he owns. Wow. That he keeps.
Yeah. They're irreplaceable.
Yeah. I would. Yeah. I mean, these cars are the amount of money that Duke's a Hazard car that had actually been a screen jump used car that got rebuilt. I wouldn't even try to put a price on that. Did you, you remember that car I showed a few weeks ago that a friend of mine had built back in the 70s that sold for like $2 million at Mecum?
Vaguely.
It was an old Dodge Dart, I think it was, or a Challenger. And it was a hideous 1970s, 80s style paint job and all that. But this car sold for over $2 million at Mecum auction, and it was insane. Well, I was just talking the other day with him, and he said that he's got something he's going to be pulling out of his private collection to put up for sale that blows anything away that they've had at Mecum so far. So I'm really interested. This is the kind of guy who, you don't realize it, but he's got one of the old Pontiac jet engines or the Plymouth jet engine car and all that. Wow. I mean, that's how this guy is. He pulls stuff out of nowhere, and just like, I never saw that before. He's the guy that called me over to his shop and asked me if I could tell what the piece of a front end of a car was on. And I'm like, I've seen that. I know that. I can't tell you where I've seen it. And he's like, that's the front cowling for the Batmobile.
Wow.
The Michael Keaton style with the big, huge fin on the back of it and all that. And it was crazy. So
they probably have the same designers do all the, like I believe Michael Chaffee does the Knight Rider ones. He probably does a lot of the other ones.
Yeah, you get known for things like that, so you build movie cars. There's a lot of different people that are doing it that are out there. And did you ever see the Damnation Alley truck? Ooh,
No.
man, this one was a specific movie built. Um, there we go. Damnation Alley vehicle. This was specifically built for the movie. I'm gonna try to get a nice, good size picture of it. There we go. And the thing is this movie came out the same year that Star Wars did. And I always loved that movie, Damnation Alley.
Oh wow.
But this just recently sold. I remember seeing something on YouTube about it where it had just recently sold and it was being completely restored if it hasn't already.
Wow.
But what was crazy is you see these wheels here?
Yep.
You ever seen the guys who deliver like safes and things like that to people's houses, how they have the dollies with the wheels on them that flip over?
I never seen it, but no.
Well, that's basically what this could do if it went up an incline that was steeper or had a higher lift than they were able to get over. The tires could literally flip to allow it to grab traction and get up on there. But yeah, I remember that from being a kid, and that movie came out the same year as Star Wars: A New Hope. For the people at that time, we just knew it as Star Wars. We didn't think of it as oh, I'm sorry. Well, this is number 7 in the no. Oh wow, where did that come from?
Wow.
So yeah, I mean, but there's a lot of different people out there who are making these vehicles for the movies and things, and they're you never even realize it. I mean, what was that? Escape from New York? Remember the Cadillac?
No.
Oh yeah, let's see. That was we're gonna have to do an episode just on movie cars.
That'd be interesting for sure.
Yeah, that thing was you talk about pimp mobile. I'm trying to find, I'd rather see one that was actually in the movie. All right, it looks like this one's going to be it. It's not real big, but we'll see what we can do. It was there we go, that's better. All right, it was this crazy pimped out Cadillac, and it had these big chandeliers on it and all that.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was one of those that they just completely did it up for the movie. And that one, I mean, that's insane. It looked great. Well, I was actually in talks with the folks from one of the Transformer movies about having my monster truck in the Transformers movie.
Oh, okay.
Because they were filming in the city where I was working. And I was talking to one of them and I said, well, I got a monster truck. And they're like, eh. And I said, oh, no. Let me show you a picture of my truck. And they were like, oh. So we were in talks about doing it in the movie. They just couldn't figure out a way to put it in there. And quite honestly, they wanted me to pretty much destroy it. They want you to do a big jump or something like that. And I'm like, no. But a friend of mine had a 79 F-150. They paid him a bunch of money to rent it from him, did a bunch of work on it. They pretty much brought it back to mint condition, paid him a ton of money to do it. They did all that work to it, used it for like a second. You saw it for a second in the movie, and then just gave it back to him.
Wow.
He pretty much had a brand new 1979 F-150.
That's cool.
Yeah, there's some, what we got? What? My hubs is singing opera really loud one time in a warehouse for a joke, and a guy came around the corner and said he sings better than Jim Neighbors. Oh my gosh. Well, Jim Neighbors was actually known for his singing, wasn't he?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah. He actually had like records and stuff out. So yeah, Vince, them big old monster trucks. I spent quite a bit of my life with them. Let's see. I'm trying to see if I got any pictures here. Like this, that's me. I was working for the bounty hunter team. This one is me driving the Black Stallion truck onto the floor at Ford Field in Detroit, the big stadium there in Detroit that we have. So yeah, I've worked in and out of the monster truck industry for a long time. So
That's cool.
all right, Chad, well, you got anything else for us tonight?
No, this was really fun though.
Yeah, I love doing these. I don't expect it to stay on topic. I always expect everything to jump 50 million ways. And I think it's just awesome. I think we all learn and get to bring back some great memories. So how about next week we talk a little about cars that made movies and TV shows. I think that'll be a good topic. So you start picking up, start making a list of all the ones you want to talk about, stuff like that. I'll start making a list, and we'll have some good stuff. All right, folks, you got anything else for Chad? You got anything else for the folks out there?
No, just thanks for watching, everyone. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, thank you. We appreciate each and every one of you. Love the back and forth with the chat and everything. Duncan, I'm hoping that soon you're going to be released and you'll be able to, be happy and have a good. I'm joking. Always make a joke about Marilyn beating Duncan and all that, but great couple. They love each other to death. So, and thank you all so much for joining us. We appreciate each and every one of you. And remember, life is short. We get one shot. Make it count.